Despite the attacks on 2 members of my family in my new home, there was nothing I could do but pray and try not to think about what may or may not be haunting my house. I was stuck in a year lease, so I couldn't just move out. But unfortunately, whatever this thing was, it made it clear that I wouldn't be ignored. One night, when I was laying in bed with my daughters, I was awoken to the sound of a banging in the upstairs room above us. It was a strange banging, like it was against the floor rather than the wall. That's when I remembered that my daughter had a big yoga ball upstairs that she used to sit and bounce on. That was definitely the noise I was hearing. My first thought was that an intruder had made their way into our home, but then I realized that they wouldn't waste time bouncing on a yoga ball, and nobody had attempted to open the door to my bedroom, so it certainly wasn't an intruder. The next morning when I walked out of my bedroom, I looked up to find the yoga ball had moved from my daughter's bedroom to the top of the stairs. It was sitting there, staring down at me. Whatever moved it had to be the thing that attacked me, my mom, and my nephew. It was taunting me with my own children's toys, and I continued to find the yoga ball moved around upstairs in a different place every morning. The bouncing proceeded to occur every night, so much so that it no longer scared me, and I eventually got used to being awoken by it. Until one night, when I was awoken to a different banging. This banging was louder and resembled a gunshot. It was so loud that it woke up my 2 daughters too. I knew that this noise couldn't have been fireworks. It was definitely gunshots. I rushed my daughters to the back of the house away from any windows, assuming that the shots were coming from outside. I then called my dad to come over and pick up my daughters and I because I didn't feel safe staying there if a gunman was on the loose in my neighborhood. My dad arrived quickly and drove around the neighborhood before walking my daughters and I to his car. He said he didn't see anything suspicious and there were no cops to indicate that somebody had reported the gunshots. The night was quiet as ever. My entire neighborhood was asleep as if me and my daughters were the only ones that could hear the gunshots. We stayed with my parents the next couple of nights, and no news was reported of a shooting in my neighborhood, so we returned to staying in our home. Fortunately, we didn't hear the gunshots again. But as our fears of our new home grew, so did the frequency of incidents. As I said, I was used to the yoga ball bouncing and moving upstairs, but then one night I was awoken to a different noise. It sounded like a sliding and dragging noise. I froze with fear in my bed until I realized what was making the noise. It was the sliding door closet. I remained in bed, too afraid to investigate what was opening the closet, until the next morning, when I decided to see if it was in fact what I had heard. To my horror, it was. The door that I had always kept closed was now slid open. I decided to close it again, to make sure that I hadn't just left it open, but sure enough, that night, I heard the same sliding noise, and found it reopened the next day. Next to accompany the abundance of noises from upstairs was the sound of creaking floorboards and organized repetitive pounding. In other words, footsteps. The first time I heard the footsteps, I began to wonder if it had been an intruder after all. Perhaps they were coming down from the attic and tormenting my family. So to know for absolute certainty, I had a friend climb a ladder and peek into the attic to see if anyone was living up there. As his upper body was cut off from view inside the attic, I could still see the luminescence of the flashlight as he shined it around the dark and dusty attic. He searched for a while to make sure he didn't miss anything. When he finally came down, he confirmed that the attic was in fact entirely empty. As previously mentioned, the incidents increased throughout the year. Whatever was doing them had moved from making noises upstairs to now causing commotion downstairs. It began abusing the electronics in our home. The microwave began starting on its own. The smoke alarms would randomly beep in the middle of the night, even after replacing the batteries several times. And the living room TV would never turn off. I would try to turn it off, but then I would find it on a few minutes later. This happened so frequently that I eventually started unplugging the TV after using it. All of these occurrences were frightening, but the icing on the cake happened during the day when nobody was home. My daughters were at school, and I was at work all day. I left work around 8 at night and picked my daughters up from my mom's house. When we returned home, I heard a strange noise coming from the downstairs bathroom. It sounded like air blowing, and I could smell smoke. I ran to the bathroom to find that my blow dryer was on. The wall outlet had completely fried and burnt, and the cord to the blow dryer was completely melted. I don't remember how, but I managed to turn the blow dryer off and unplug it. There is no way I would leave my blow dryer on because of how loud it is. Something had turned it on, in an effort to burn down the house. I was afraid my landlords would blame me for this, so I was reluctant to call them and ask for it to be fixed. So it wasn't until something else happened that I decided to call them for both. Naturally, there was a burning smell from my bathroom, but I also began smelling a burning coming from my dryer, and my clothes weren't drying after a cycle. I knew this had to be an issue with the dryer vent, so I had no choice but to call my landlords to send someone to fix the problems. However, instead of sending a professional, they both came instead, so the husband could fix them. That's when part of the truth about what happened in that home came to light. I had left them alone to check the dryer vent, while I was across from them in the kitchen cleaning up. All was going well, as the husband did his work, until I heard him gasp. I started to walk over to see what he was gasping about, and that's when I saw bullets in his hand. I then heard him whisper to his wife that's where the bullets ended up. I stopped in my tracks and turned away from them, to brace myself on the kitchen counter. The astonishing truth that there had been a shooting in my new home was overwhelming. Questions flooded my brain while simultaneously paralyzing my ability to ask them. I still had to live in this house, and for that reason, I felt it was better to not know the truth just yet. However, not wanting to know the truth didn't stop me from investigating the home to see if I could find more evidence of what happened, and to my surprise, I did. I clearly hadn't noticed before, but there were bullet holes in the center wall of both of my downstairs closets. One closet shared the same wall, on the opposite side to the laundry room, which explained how bullets got lodged in the dryer vent. They must have been able to retrieve the other bullets that went through the other closet, because that was on the connecting wall outside the room, next to the front door. The victim must have tried hiding in the closet, but the shooter mindlessly shot through all the closed doors until he found their target. This, of course, was my own assumption, but it was my only explanation for the physical evidence and hauntings occurring in my home. And it was only pieces of the puzzle. The rest had yet to reveal itself and expose the big picture of what happened in that house.